Here's a question most people avoid. Not because it's complicated, but because it's dangerous. What if? The problem isn't that humans misunderstand God, but that God, in some sense, is not fully conscious. That sounds insane, but it's exactly what Carl Jung argued in one of the most controversial books ever written, Answer to Job. This isn't a comfortable idea. It got Jung accused of heresy. It disturbed theologians. And even today, most people won't go near it. Because if he's right, it doesn't just change how you see God. It changes how you see suffering, evil, and reality itself. The story everyone thinks they understand. You probably know the story of Job. A good man, faithful, righteous, and then everything is taken from him. His wealth, his children, his health. Why? Because God makes a bet with Satan. Pause there. Let that actually land. This isn't metaphor. In the story, God allows an innocent man to be destroyed. To prove a point, most interpretations try to soften this. They say it's symbolic. They say it's a test. They say it all works out in the end. Jung refused to do that. He asked a much more uncomfortable question. What if the story means exactly what it says? Jung didn't read Job as theology. He read it as psychology. And what he saw changed everything. In the story, Job does something unexpected. He doesn't submit. He doesn't collapse. He argues. He questions. He demands justice. And in doing that, Jung says something radical. Job is more morally conscious than God. Let that sink in. Jung's claim wasn't that God is evil. It's something stranger. He believed the God image, the way the divine appears in the human psyche, contains both light and darkness, but not always consciously. In other words, immense power without full self-awareness. In Jung's psychology, every human has a shadow, the part of you you don't want to see. The anger, the cruelty, the contradictions. Now scale that up. Jung believed that what we call God in culture also has a shadow, not because God is flawed, but because human beings cannot imagine totality without splitting it. So what happens? We say, God is only good, and everything dark, we push it somewhere else. Here's the problem. What you refuse to see doesn't disappear. It goes underground. And when it comes back stronger. Jung lived through World War II. He saw what happens when entire societies project their darkness onto others. Evil doesn't vanish. It gets a new face, a new enemy, a new justification. The pattern is always the same. I am good. They are evil. And once that belief is strong enough, anything becomes justified. Jung's warning was simple. The more purely good you think you are, the more dangerous you become, because your shadow is now completely invisible to you. So what do you do with this? Jung isn't asking you to abandon faith. He's asking for something harder. Honesty. Life is not purely good. You already know that. You've seen things that don't make sense, things that don't feel just. And instead of explaining that away, Jung says, face it. Hold both sides, the beauty and the darkness. Because real depth, real understanding, doesn't come from pretending everything is light. It comes from being able to look at both, without turning away, That's what Jung found in answer to Job. Not a comfortable God, but a complete one. And maybe that's the only kind that's real. If this made you think differently, subscribe to Empire of the Mind and tell me in the comments, where have you seen the shadow in life? The part that doesn't fit the idea that everything is good? Because that's where this conversation really begins.